Next we'll go with the program agency report.
Good evening, everyone. I've listed all the classes on the schedule that we have done and that are up and coming. I've also listed the changes at REMAC that have occurred since the last meeting. St. Johnsburg and Tri-Community both changed medical directors to Dr. Franco. Frontier Fires added syringe epi, CPAP and BGL. Pavilion added naloxone, and we had a couple of pads listed there as well. Some things I want to point out on May 4th, which is a Saturday, I'm having an instructor update class. If you know any instructors, please have them sign up. You can either do the morning session, afternoon session, or you can do both. I need more people to sign up. I only have about 14 right now. So, at the last state meeting, the state announced that they have a new Facebook group. I encourage everyone to sign up for it. All the instructions are on the schedule here. It's a great resource. It's been a great resource so far between the state and the providers in New York State. There's a lot of participation, including from the program agencies. So please take the chance to sign up. It is a private group, but everybody's being pretty much accepted into the group. If you know of anyone, you could reach out on Facebook and actually invite them into the group. So please do that. The CC to Bridge Medic program started up a couple months ago. It's been going okay. The only two sponsors in this area are NU and NTRIP. Initially, there was 2 students per sponsor. However, I think NU is only down to 1 now. They have just gone through their first big major exam process, so we're going to see the results of that. Hopefully they've done well, but thus far it's been kind of bump free for the most part. There's a new program. I've been talking about it over the last couple of meetings. It's called the Pre-Hospital PEC, Pediatric Emergency Care Coordinator Program. The state's essentially looking for individuals within each agency to kind of act as a resource for pediatric education, training, equipment. In most cases, you all probably have someone that's already doing this. So if that's the case, please fill out the application, get credit for this from the state. All right, they're really trying to improve the pediatric excellence of care. It only takes a few minutes to fill it out. Once you do, get it over to me, email, snail mail, however, and I will get it off to the appropriate individuals. We have 7 agencies. I listed them on the back so far that are participating. I'd like to see more if I can, please. I just want to reiterate, the state continues to talk more and more about mutual aid plans and the REMSCO's responsibility for that. So please keep that in mind. As far as each individual council, make sure that you're evaluating all your mutual aid plans within your jurisdiction, and if there's any changes, they have to come to REMSCO to get approved so that they can go to the state. Right? We need, we're not a region that's really being focused on, but there are areas out there that have more or less not been doing as well as they should be doing. So let's not get on the radar for that one. Over the last couple of months, there's been a lot of agencies that have been kind of shutting their doors, and they've been doing it more or less on the down low without really alerting the state ahead of time. If this is something that your agency is looking to do, please do not be one of these that does it sneaky like. Reach out to the state, reach out to me, I'll get the state involved, reach out to Ed Major, whatever you need to do, but there's a process it has to go through in order to shut down. And not that I want to see any agency shut their doors, But the reality is that's what's happening across the state. So don't make this a surprise. We have to have stuff in place if that's going to happen. All right. We really didn't have a February meeting due to the weather. And so I want to bring up the fact that January 9th, 2019, which is this year, the state changed the age to become an EMT from 18 to 17. All right, you have to be 17 in the month in which you test. So this, I think, is going to be a great opportunity for a lot of these younger students to kind of get involved. I know that in Niagara County there is a BOCES program that does the EMS, and this has opened the door to many students already. All right, so if you know of these young guys, juniors, anybody, get them into these programs so that we can capture them earlier than later. All right. Anybody needs validation of that, I'm sure we can get the public. It was a public health law change. I'm sure we can get that out to you if you really need it in writing, but it is out there. And the last thing I want to focus on is the state is trying to drive a new initiative for EMS over EMS Week in May. So they're looking at doing something they're calling Beyond the Call, which will occur May 19th. They're looking for EMS agencies to get out into the community and basically do whatever we can. If it's sit at a shopping center and tell them what we do a blood pressure check, or show them what equipment we have, or tell them what services you do. There are some agencies that are actually doing like programs such as Stop the Bleed, Hands Only CPR. This is the time for us. It's basically call it our Recruit New York Week, so to speak, for EMS. They're looking for everybody on May 19th, which is Sunday, the first Sunday of that EMS week, to go out from noon to 4. Right? So please, if you're going to do something, let me know. I will get it out there. I will let everyone know. I'll let the state know what's going on. So the meetings are listed on there for the other entities that are coming up, and the state meeting's coming up next month. So hopefully we can have some more information. That's all I have.
Thank you, Robert. We'll move on to the treasurer's report. And slash CON committee report.
All right, the only check that we issued last month was for Mark Butler for his services for the City of Lockport Con, and it was for the amount of $1,471.66. The bank total is $15,149.71. That includes a recent deposit for Darien Lakes CON application. A copy of the statement is up here, should anyone want to see that.
CON business is all signed, sealed, and delivered for tonight.
So you want that more listed on more? You want to go into that too?
We have to.
All right, I'll keep going then.
I should have said Lockport.
Yeah. So what we have on the table, the first one obviously is Lockport, so we completed that one for tonight. City of Wilson, I have not heard anything back from them. I'm going to reach out to the city. Who am I talking about?
South Wilson.
Yeah, I want to make sure we get the right one. And reach out to them and see if they're still interested in moving forward. They kind of have mentioned they may be contacting you, but you've heard nothing. I've had no further contact, so if they're not going to proceed, we'll refund their money and we'll move on. As far as COVA is concerned, it's still with the ALJ. As of today, I have received no letters, no correspondence. As far as I know, Wade, nobody has received anything as of today. So I talked to Dana, he did this afternoon with Ed, and I had nothing that came back from them. As far as Darien Lake application, that one is still in process. There's a number of, I guess, deficiencies, we'll call it, with the application. There's a few things on their fitness and competence that they did. They checked some of the wrong boxes, a little bit of missing information. Dana also mentioned that they're looking for them to drill down more into who actually owns them, what percentage of, you know, what the stockholders, if there's any stockholders, that they don't own more than 10% of the company. Was there anything else on that? I know we're gonna have, the committee's gonna meet afterwards with Ed and have a little bit more in-depth discussion on it. But just briefly, that's where that stands as of now. They're looking to open May 4th is their opening day, so.
Are they gonna be running a handbook though, or no?
Yes.
They can?
There's the discussion that we're having is tonight,
That's
we'll have
their
further
intent.
discussion.
That's their
That is the intent.
Their intent.
That is their intent. But there's still other question. The other question that came up as part of the application process was, are they operating any other ambulances? I printed out what Dana gave me today of the parent holding company for them, and they own a number of amusement parks from California to Hawaii. So I am sure somewhere in there, maybe they have an ambulance on one of their other sites, but they haven't disclosed that to us. So the question is going back out to them is, do they have any ambulances that are out on any of their other properties that are under their holding? So they're looking for more information than they have in the past. They're getting more diligent, I think, in some of the work that they're doing, and the more, you know, the last time they transitioned, it was like kind of, if you look at it, they went from a bigger company to a small one. Now you're kind of going the opposite way. So now you have more entities that they have to divulge information to the state for. So,
Sean, question is, with years past, it was the last minute, get the vote in here so they could have opening weekend. Is it gonna be the same thing where it's coming down to the 1st of May or the end of April? We gotta schedule another meeting and try and get a quorum to get it passed through. I mean, remember that was what, 2 years ago? We did the same
And-
thing?
and that's what
Right down the last minute?
that's what we tried to avoid this time around by getting the information. And that was one of the questions and concerns. And again, we're gonna have that, if you wanna sit down in that meeting, we're gonna get a little bit more clarification as to that. But the intent isn't to have an emergency meeting so we can do that, because that becomes very difficult. Our goal was to have it on the books for the night, but if you look at what the state had done for the city of Lockport, you know, they extended their certificate of need to allow them, because basically the burden of not having things done on time fell onto the council. So there's a mechanism in place to allow for things like that. So we'll have that discussion a little bit later and get more clarification for it, the group. So.
Oh, perfect, yeah, right on target.
Thank you, Sean.
And that's the last of the cons that we're currently holding.
That's a good thing. Well, we don't have any old business. Under new business, we have a distinguished speaker from the New York State DOH this evening, Mr. Ed Major.
It's an Ed talk.
Yeah, it's
I'll
get off the camera, I'll stay on this side, is that okay? You can hear my voice. Just a couple other things too. State awards, May 1st is the deadline for that. I don't know if we mentioned that, or we had mentioned it previously, but we always encourage state application for EMS awards. We have some, great people in the region, and certainly they should be recognized, but that deadline is vastly approaching, so that's an important thing. Also, May 21st is the EMS Memorial, which is certainly an honor to participate in that. If you haven't participated in that, there's many people that are going on the wall, most of them unfortunately 9/11 related, and it's quite a moving ceremony. If you do have an opportunity to either send an ambulance or representatives from your agency, we'd certainly be honored to have you, and any representation that you're interested. I know it's a long ride. I know it's 5 hours, whatever, but it's quite a tribute to the fallen EMS providers in the system. So, what I was asked to talk about tonight. Just one other quick thing is the EMT verification process that's been moved to an online process. So it's an email driven thing. There's a form that the individual that's looking for EMT verification completes. That's emailed in, and there's an email response back with the verification process. They sort of buried the form. It's under the certification piece, but it is on the website, and certainly you can contact me, or if you can't find it, we've got our website has been updated. Some of the Part 800 regulations they haven't necessarily changed. Some of the previous versions of the 800 regulations that were posted on our website were not as accurate as the actual law. Believe it or not, we had a little bit of inconsistency there. Whatever, it is what it is. So what we've done is the official rules and regulation, we've referred it to that particular site, which is the official rules and regulations. However, you have to sort of click on each section and sort of, instead of seeing an entire 800 21P or all those regulations, it's kind of like page by page. So it's a little bit different. It's unfortunate. You got to kind of dig around. But if anybody has any questions on 800 regulations, we're glad to give you the actual reference or whatever. If you don't have my email, I'll certainly get you my email. And what I came here to talk about tonight at Wade's request is that we have changed our agency inspection process. We have eliminated all of the forms that we traditionally use. We're doing everything on paper. We've now come up until the next century. We have everything into what is called MobiTask, and I don't have the ability to link this to to do a great demonstration on it, but I just wanted to sort of give you an overview that what has happened is that we have put several months into implementing a new process. It's taken all of our 800 forms in the inspection, which is the DOH 139. We've expanded on a bunch of the sections to include things such as, are you, and some of them are not relevant, but do you have an appropriate, a CLIA license? Do you have, are you involved with the CME program? We're finding that we're looking at that a little bit more in depth. It's all the same stuff that it was on the previous inspections, which were just manually done on paper, with some enhancements. Some of the additional things that we're checking, if there is a check engine light on, if it's just a yellow solid check engine light, we're not going to take you out of service for that. If it is a flashing, which means that there's more of a critical situation, we will take the ambulance out of service for that. Or if it's a red check engine light or a red light indicating that there's a severe problem with the with the vehicle. If there's a yellow flashing light, it means that the engine's going to be misfiring and some other stuff, the way the mechanics and the DMV regs read. Certain vehicles in New York State are exempt from some of the check engine light stuff. So what we've done is that if you have a solid check engine light on your vehicle that's illuminating at the time the inspector does the inspection, it just basically will show up on the bottom. This needs to be evaluated for a safety review and give us a response within 5 days from your mechanic, 5 business days, indicating that it's been checked or reset or corrected and that kind of stuff. So we also go into a little bit more in depth on the if you're in the CME program, going through that process, and then every vehicle, it's the same thing we used to do. We do a quick inspection or we do a full inspection. There are which on the previous inspection forms, and I'll be glad to come to another one and actually project this on the screen so you can actually see the materials as we go through. And I'm happy to stick around until 10 or 11. If you want me to talk about regulations for 3 hours and you want to stay, I don't want to bore you. But I am happy to show you the actual, the product and how we're going to go through and how the inspector. Ultimately, what will happen is that when the inspection is complete, whether it's a full agency inspection or whether it is just a spot inspection or we find you at the hospital, inspection will be, once it's completed, it'll be immediately emailed in a PDF fashion with all of the complete report from the inspector will go directly to the agency contact that's listed in our EMS database. So if your agency leadership has changed over the last 6 months or a year or whatever, we recommend you do an agency update form. And we also are encouraging all EMS agencies, as people transition in and out of leadership roles, to provide us with an agency-based email, so that could be the standard, and that goes from, say, captain to captain or chief to chief, or however your structure is based on your system. So that's sort of the nutshell version. We're still doing the critical items that, if any of those things are missing, we would the ambulance may be removed from service. Our goal is not to delay people at hospitals. We've had some feedback that from commercial services indicating that they're concerned that we're going to be delaying them, and that's not the case. I mean, if the system is busy and there's a patient that's waiting, we're not going to delay an ambulance for an inspection. We may follow up later with the agency and go to the agency and conduct an inspection, on a particular vehicle or something like that. But if it's if we're holding calls and the crew needs to get to an ambulance and there's a patient in need, obviously that's the priority. But we also have a regulatory responsibility to ensure that the vehicles are compliant, that they're safe, and that the patients are, that there's adequate, equipment, and that the vehicle is compliant with the public health laws. So that's really, technically it's taking all of our previous inspection forms, rolling them up into an electronic process. The process should be a little bit easier. You'll get an incident report instead of just a sheet of paper handed to you at the end, and it'll go directly to your agency rep that's listed in our computer system. We can also add, if we're doing a full service inspection and you have your captain and you have other officers, we can add those emails in, and it'll go to those individuals that that are on site or that are representing the agency at that time. But ultimately, it'll go to the chief operations person of the entity. So I'm happy to stick around and show you it. I mean, it's really not too exciting. It's stuff on an iPad. We just click and kind of go through it. But it is progress that we've made. We're continuing to enhance that inspection process to make it a little bit more streamlined and more effective, and into the sort of the 21st century. So I think overall it's a good situation. I don't think there's anything else major that's not covered in the in the regulations. We're drilling down a little bit more, like I said, into some areas. We're looking at the the CME records. We're looking to see if you have a CLIA license, if you are an ambulance transfusion center or service, if you're ATS, if you have that approval and you're transporting patients that have blood products. We'll look at those components to see that you've got all those things. So we've added some things, but a lot of them are not going to be relevant. Blood glucometry, do you have an appropriate CLIA license? Is it in date? All those kinds of things. We still go through all the certification, all the record keeping, infection control processes. One of the things that we did add, and I'll talk about this, there's still a current commissioner's order that indicates that every EMS agency has to conduct donning and doffing for the annual Ebola training. So if your agency has not done annual once a year, it used to be, and you'll see that, in the Congo, the Ebola is coming back. We're one flight away from that potential situation, and we want to make sure that people are protected and we have appropriate infection control materials. But we see a lot of agencies that haven't done that, or we're not even aware that they needed to do that. That commissioner's order that went out, 5-6 years ago when this was more prevalent, it remains in effect. It has been loosened up a little bit, but it is something that is on our inspection list. And if that commissioner's order does expire, we'll remove it from the inspection process. But I think it's an important piece just to remember. And as you see more and more, we're seeing measles outbreaks. We're seeing all sorts of stuff that's going on out there. So your infection control stuff should be updated and kept in par and in compliance. So I think that's a nutshell version. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. Or if you want to see what the actual process looks like, I could do a dummy one. And if you want to sit around and do that, I'm happy to do it. If not, I'd come back for another 20-minute type thing that will show you actually how it works, and we could sort of do an agency inspection type thing just to walk through what's in there. But so anyhow, thank you. If you do have questions, I'll be here.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Does anybody else have any new business they'd like to bring before the council? Andrew?
Would we be able to put like a listing of officers and stuff like that, who's in the council, like names, things like that, because that hasn't been like updated in quite some years. Who's like chair, vice chair, who's committee, head of
You mean
committees?
for each county
Yeah,
and for us as a whole?
yeah,
Yeah, actually Terry's working on that. right
I'll
now.
have something for the next meeting.
okay.
Yep.
Anybody else?
Wait. I just want to bring everyone up to date. I know this whole looming Big Lakes thing has been kind of sitting out there, and we really haven't had a lot of updated information on it. I just spoke to Colleen, who's our director of finance there at Lake Plains, who's informed me that everything is sitting up at the highest level of the state waiting for them to say yes. So we've gotten that far with this whole process of getting Big Lakes reestablished as an entity. So I just want to make everyone aware of that. That's all we're waiting on.
Yeah, I'm sorry I forgot about that. Lake Plains has been doing a phenomenal job on getting this all straightened out for us. And actually, what's kind of funny is they just inquired about having a budget meeting, but they haven't given us a penny yet, so I don't know what they would expect us to budget with.
Monopoly money.
Yeah. That's what I was gonna say. It's like, I know that they sent the invitation out, and I'm looking at it going, okay, that's just for our group, or is this a?
The one that's tomorrow is an overall thing. The one that's for May 2nd is directly for us Big Lakes.
And that's gonna be held,
Via phone
okay.
or webinar or whatever.
I didn't respond with it, it's just been, but I saw that in there and I said I gotta open it up and look a little bit further, but.
But we did a proposed budget with Colleen.
Yes, and that's part of the gateway is a proposed budget, and we sent that up, and like there's 2 documents that still have not been approved, but they are at the highest level of the state right now. From my understanding and talking to Colleen, if they approve it, we are done. We will be reestablished. We will not be a 501c3 though. Because you have to re-petition for that, but from what we found out, you do not have to be a 501c3.
So then we'll be responsible for taxes?
You will. That's all. I just wanted to bring that up.
That's a shock with New York State.
Oh, I know.
They're gonna give us the money and then tax us on their money that they gave us.
Give it back.
to them.
Give it back. You haven't paid in 5 years. Here's your back taxes.
Yeah.
We're gonna owe them money.
Anybody else have any new business? I'll entertain a motion. Anybody that wants to chat with Ed, he's graciously offered to stay. The next meeting